"What were some of the struggles?" I asked Pedro. Pedro looked at me and said, "There were many. Finding water was one of the first challenges they faced. The men had to dig a trench by hand using picks to divert a nearby stream and bring water into the camp. They boiled the water to make sure it was safe to drink. They used large metal water troughs for bathing. They would take turns scrubbing each other down. If they had a wife and kids, they would often help. We take so much for granted nowadays, don't we?" I replied to Pedro. "Yes, we do," he replied. "That is why the stories of our past are so important," said Pedro. Pedro continued, "At one point, scarlet fever broke out in the camp. They had to isolate the individuals and their families who had it. There wasn't medicine to treat such an illness at that time. Thankfully, everyone survived. One day, one of the entrances to the coal mine collapsed, trapping 10 workers in the mine. My great-grandfather led a handful of men and worked diligently to open the entrance and free the trapped men. They all would have died from lack of oxygen if it weren't for their heroics. The struggles that these men and their families went through created a strong bond," continued Pedro. "Everyone thought of each other as family and not as separate family units. Children were especially cared for in the camp. The children were an inspiration to everyone. They would always have fun, laughing, and playing together. The environment didn't seem to bother them in the least. Isn't it funny that people can be so happy even in the most difficult situations?" asked Pedro. "Yes, it is amazing," I replied. "In life, we are conditioned to believe that we need more and more. I wonder if, in fact, we would be happier with less," said Pedro. "I believe that is probably true," I responded. "One more story, and then I'll finish up," said Pedro. "There was a man in the camp named Big Jim who worked the mine. Just like his name, he was a big man. Big Jim had a way of making the people laugh with his stories and jokes. In the evenings, everyone would gather around a campfire, and Jim would spin his stories. What I'm about to tell you now about Big Jim has become legend. One evening when Big Jim had everyone in suspense with one of his stories, a large grizzly bear came out of the woods and right into the camp. Everyone was frightened. Big Jim said, "Quiet, everyone. Just sit still and he will go away." Everyone sat still while trembling. The grizzly bear proceeded to stand up on his hind legs. The large bear began walking with clawed paws raised in the air right at Big Jim, like the bear was ready for a showdown. The bear let out a loud, terrifying growl. All of a sudden, Big Jim stood up, looked the bear straight in the eyes, and let out a more fearsome growl than any bear could ever muster up. The bear quickly turned around and headed back into the woods on all fours as fast as he could go. Everyone around the camp fire was stunned in amazement. After the shock left them, everyone cheered, "Big Jim, Big Jim, Big Jim." Someone yelled out, "No one messes with Big Jim," and everyone began laughing. Everyone gathered around Big Jim to give him their own special bear hug. The children were quick to gather around him first. No bear ever dared to come back into the camp. So that's the story of the legend of Big Jim.